So it's a pleasure for everybody, also on my conferences, on the European Medical Travel Conference, to have him as a speaker. And we are curious what he wants to tell us about the future of medical travel. Please, Keith, go ahead.
Thank you, Uwe. Let me just explain why I have some insight into medical travel. What I do is, and if you don't know what I do, I provide information. I'm a web online publisher specifically in the medical travel and medical tourism world, and we look at the world of medical travel from two perspectives. One is from the patient and the consumer view through treatmentabroad.com, which provides information to patients around the world about going to another country for dentistry or surgery or treatment. We have another perspective excuse me, on the industry, which is International Medical Travel Journal, which is a business-to-business newsletter and website. It's free to subscribe. We send a newsletter out every Friday with what's going on in the medical travel world. We welcome articles from people who want to share their ideas about developing this industry. So that's where our and my perspective comes from. And we've been in this business, in this sector, for about the last 7 years now. So it enables us to kind of get an idea of what's happened in recent years and what's likely to happen going forward. And that's how I want to present my picture of the future of medical travel. But before I do that, I want to go back, and I'm going to give you a history lesson. Anyone heard of the California Gold Rush? This kicked off, this happened back in 1848 in California, and there was a man there who was building a mill by the American River in California. And there was a gentleman that worked for him called James Marshall. And he was responsible for the California Gold Rush. He discovered gold while he was doing some work for the mill. He discovered some gold in the American River. Let me introduce you to another man. This is Samuel Brannan. Now, Samuel Brannan lived nearby. He was in the town near this river. And he was an entrepreneur. He ran the store, he ran the local newspaper, and so on and so on. And he heard word that the other man had found gold in the river. What did he do? Okay, he went out immediately. He bought every shovel he could find in California for his store. And then what he did was he ran down the streets of the town going, gold, gold, gold. There's gold in the river. Okay, he didn't go looking for gold. He just told everyone there was gold there. Did you think he did well from the gold rush? Yeah, he sold a great deal of shovels. So the gold rush, the California gold rush began. 200,000 prospectors appeared. And they came from all around the world, from America, across America, Mexico, Chile, and so on. Massive rush. San Francisco grew to 36,000 people very quickly. Samuel Brannan was very happy. He was a very rich man. And who made money out of the California gold rush? Well, the prospectors, the people digging for gold, some of them, the best equipped, the best organized prospectors found gold. The saloon keepers made money. The brothel keepers made money. And the shops and people who supplied the prospectors made money. So what's the message here? Okay, in my 7 years of the medical tourism, what I've seen is the medical tourism gold rush. And it's been a very, very similar philosophy and history. When did the medical tourism gold rush begin? Well, I'm an internet man, so I look at Google to work this out, and here's my analysis. This is a kind of measure of the number of searches done for the phrase medical tourism, which is an industry phrase. I don't like the phrase, but it's an industry phrase. And you can see here, back in about 2005, the number of people typing medical tourism into Google peaks. And then it kind of levels off. And interestingly, look how it's kind of dropped off in the last year or so. And we've seen this kind of gold rush philosophy happen in medical tourism. If you go back to 2005, 2006, what you saw was people shouting, "There's gold in them there hills," about medical tourism. These are a few headlines from Google News from 2006. 1 million medical tourists flocking to India. Bumrungrad Hospital in Thailand attracts 400,000 foreign patients per year. The Philippines is set to cash in. And you got this kind of massive exaggeration of the kind of size of the market and the size of the opportunity. And who made money out of this? Was it the doctors, the airlines, the hospitals? Well, some of the people in medical tourism in recent years, the hospitals and clinics, the prospectors in medical tourism have made money. And again, they're the best equipped, the best informed, the best organized. Certainly the saloon keepers, there's a few big conferences, and I won't say Uwe's made vast sums of money, but the people who bring together the prospectors have done okay out of this. And certainly kind of advisors and consultants who travel around the world advising tourism boards and health boards about how to attract patients. And to some extent the suppliers of this. So I want to talk about, if that's the gold rush, and it's probably over, where do we go from here after the gold rush? I'll give you an insight into what's happening in the UK, because that's the market I know best. And here's some data from the International Passenger Survey in the UK, which tracks people coming in and out of airports and ports in the UK and asks, why are they travelling? Is it business? Is it pleasure, holiday, or is it for medical treatment? And we buy this data from the UK government, and in terms of people going out of the UK, you can see, again, the kind of boom of people actually doing this medical tourism thing. And then it peaked around about 2006, big drop-off, but some hints of recovery. Now, the question you have to ask is, well, what happened here? Well, what happened in the world in 2008? The credit crunch, the banking crisis, and this has not gone away. And those who are watching TV this morning about what's happening in Greece and so on, we have, certainly in the UK, we have a big recession at the moment. People are not spending money, and it means they're not spending money on healthcare. And that's one of the reasons why we saw this big hit in the number of medical travellers. These are the number of patients alongside that who come into the UK, because the UK has a big inbound medical tourism business of people coming to central London from the Middle East and so on for treatment. But medical travel is really about the health of nations, and the future of medical travel is about the health of nations. This is the data that you see about how much different countries spend on healthcare. How much does it cost them as a percent of their GDP, their gross domestic product? How much the country earns? And the problem that the USA has always had of spending vast sums of money on healthcare and not getting a very good return. And then countries like the UK, where it spends now about 8-9% of its income effectively on providing healthcare for its people, whether it's public or privately paid healthcare. Of course, the problem is, these costs are going up in every country, purely because of the aging of populations and the cost of medical technology. And this is the problem, and here's Greece. Well, this data, this graph is probably about 6 months old now. This is debt. This is what governments owe, and the problem that every country has in terms of the debt and the problems. I mean, we know that Greece is on the verge of bankruptcy, and there are other countries, and one very close to you, Italy, which will potentially be the biggest disaster if it suffers the same problems in Europe as Greece has done. So you get countries faced with this problem, and the UK is not immune to this. You know, that our government is trying to reduce expenditure on healthcare, and this is good news. This is good news for the medical travel world. Let me show you some headlines. These are headlines from the Times newspaper in the UK literally over the last couple of weeks. NHS patients face longer wait. NHS patients are waiting longer for medical tests. Waiting times hit a 3-year high. And this is happening in every country. It's not just the UK. The pressure on the health service in the UK is massive at the moment, just because of the numbers of the people and the holding of healthcare expenditure. And over the last 10 years, the UK has poured money into staff and resources and has held waiting lists, and it's not bad. But the problem is coming back, and it cannot be avoided. Here's the latest data on the UK waiting list, and this shows how long people have to wait for all operations. Now these people, 2.3 million, they have to wait. They've got a wait time at the moment of under 18 weeks. These people will never become medical travellers because they're happy to wait. What you have to understand about medical travel and medical tourism is often it's a decision of last resort. That you have to get to the point where you're thinking, well, I will go to a different country with a different culture to have this thing done to me. And people aren't comfortable with that. So it's the extreme end that potentially become medical travellers. These, at the moment, 200,000 plus, and this will become 250,000, 300,000 as the months progress, despite the government, we have a rule in the UK that there's not supposed to be anyone waiting over 18 weeks. This is a government pledge. No one will wait over 18 weeks. And the interesting thing is they've tried to do some things to kind of remove this 18-week problem. Oh, sorry, this is interesting. This is the number of people in that 200,000 by specialty. So would you, if you were looking to get patients from the UK to come to Croatia who are on NHS waiting lists, what you wouldn't be targeting are patients who have cardiothoracic operations. Because in the UK, they don't have to wait. Look at the very small number. Geriatrics, rheumatology, thoracic medicine, neurosurgery. The bulk is obviously up here. Orthopedics, general surgery, ophthalmology, urology. So these, in terms of traditional elective surgery, are where the big waiting lists are at the moment. The National Health Service is trying to fix this kind of thing. And what it's doing to remove these people at the moment from the waiting list is they're paying private hospitals in the UK to treat these patients. And again, this is a headline literally from a week ago. GPs face private firms. Nearly 20,000 patients being treated at private facilities. And here's the really interesting bit of this article. I'll blow that up. They spent £200,000 to send patients abroad for treatment in other European countries. This is the first time this has really begun to happen with the National Health Service. We've had our first inquiry this year from a National Health Service trust that said it had a waiting list, and could we provide any ideas about how they can get this waiting list fixed or removed in another European country. It's the first time we've ever had that kind of inquiry. So these are signs, early signs of the pressure on the waiting list, and the UK is not unique in this, that may change things and be positive for medical travel. I talked earlier on about taking ideas away and trying to change the future of medical travel, because the development of this sector is very dependent on what people in the industry do, and frankly, I'm very honest about this, I don't think in many cases we do a very good job of it. And it's a fairly unsophisticated industry. It's still a very early industry. And there are some barriers, and I just want to highlight the four, what I see as the main barriers to this industry and this sector moving forward. The first one I'm going to look at is patient awareness. Are people actually aware, and do they understand medical travel, medical tourism? The fear factor, is it safe? I'm going to talk about that. Protectionism, what happens in the UK to put people off, to frighten them from going abroad. And then what I call joined up healthcare, how are we going to provide this in the medical travel sector? So first, let's deal with awareness. Do we have any marketeers or advertising people here? Anyone know what ADA stands for? No? I learned it in one of the first things I learned in my business degree. ADA stands for Awareness, Interest, Decision, Action. And it's the buying process. Doesn't matter what you buy. It's the buying process. And if you apply this to medical tourism, awareness. A patient is aware that this is possible. I could go to Croatia and have this dental treatment, this operation. Interest is kind of, oh, this might work for me. This might be good for me. I'm interested. I'll go and research this and I'll find out about this. Desire is the patient is the point. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I want to go abroad. And action, yeah, they're in that mindset of going, well, where should I go? Which is the best doctor? Which is the best clinic? Should I go to Croatia? Should I go to Hungary? And so on. And the problem we have in medical tourism, and this is true in the UK, is just people not really being aware enough of medical, that it's an option, that it's a viable, realistic option. And we need to change that. And one of the problems is that there aren't any players, there aren't any businesses, companies in the marketplace that are big enough to change and remove and improve awareness by advertising. You know, we don't have the McDonald's of medical travel advertising in the UK saying, hey, you know, come to Croatia, come to Spain, come to Hungary. That may change. There are new products coming into the market in the UK. I have an investment in a health insurance product in the UK, which after 2.5 years will finally launch in November, December this year. And it's a medical tourism insurance product for British patients, which we will roll out over Europe in the coming years, hopefully. But it's a health insurance product which they don't get treated in a private hospital in the UK. They go to a network of hospitals that are scattered around Europe. PR, I always encourage our clients to tell positive stories. And I'm always, you know, our good clients, the ones who really want to get places in this business, create patient stories. They create press coverage in the local papers in the UK, and some of them do this really, really well. Many of the Hungarian dental firms are incredibly proactive at getting stories in local newspapers in the UK about patients who come from Birmingham or Liverpool or Manchester to their dental clinic for dental treatment. And they do this very well, and it brings more patients. Because the other thing is your existing customers and making sure that, you know, they go back and they recommend and generate more patients for you. The other thing that we're going to hear about later on that may change or improve awareness of the medical travel option is this EU directive. And we've got the speaker later on who's going to talk about that and explain where that fits, because Croatia is, what, 2 years away from being part of the EU? And this is important. This may enhance awareness of the medical travel options. Within the UK, we've published a booklet that we've sent to all the NHS hospitals and advisors in the UK, which explains how a British patient who is on the National Health Service can exercise their choice to go to another hospital or clinic anywhere in Europe, within the European Union. The other problem we have to overcome is one of the biggest problems, and it is what I call the fear factor. And it is this problem that is, if you need an operation, whatever kind of operation it is, the first question patients ask themselves is is it safe? And you have a dropout. You have lots of people who maybe become aware of medical travel, then they start to explore the options for going somewhere. But what stops them doing it at the end of the day, and either delaying their treatment or paying for it within their own country, is the fear factor. Is it safe? Can I trust this doctor, this clinic? And the message is that you really got to do everything you can to generate confidence. And that starts just with your own website and providing, decent information and believable information about what you do in your doctors and your clinic and your hospital. There's insurance policies and guarantees out there that are available now that everyone should use. It shouldn't be a case of a patient saying, well, what happens if it goes wrong? How will I pay for it if the operation goes wrong? You can sell them, you can resell them, or recommend an insurance policy that will cover them. And you should always encourage them to tell their story. Again, we have a site, we have a thing called reviews.treatmentabroad. We have a little widget that you can put on your own website. You don't have to be a client of ours, and that enables your patient to go and do a kind of TripAdvisor style review of your services. And I would, if I were in this business, I'd be getting every one of my patients to do this, because this is great news. This is recommendation from other patients. So, really encourage the patient's voice. Uwe, I've got 4 or 5 minutes to finish off. Is that okay? The third barrier to success is protectionism. And what I mean by protectionism is this. This is what we see. This is the biggest battle I have to fight in the UK. Is I appear quite often on national radio, TV, whatever, or in the comments in the press. On one side there is me, and on the other side there is the President of the British Medical Association, the President of the British Association of Plastic Surgeons, and so on, because they're generating stories like this. Cosmetic surgery abroad goes wrong. What happens? They come back to England, and the National Health Service ends up paying to fix the problem. So they generate these kind of scare stories. This is Ireland is a good market for dental patients. Dentists, this is the Irish Dental Association warning about foreign treatment. And these stories come out on a regular basis. And what I'd like to see, maybe next year, I'd like to get the President of the British Dental Association here in Croatia. I'd like to see these people coming to your European conference and getting them to understand and get involved in medical travel, rather than saying, whoa, we're not touching that, this is dangerous, well, it's a threat to my income, my pocket, really. But to get those people involved in the medical travel sector and understand the people that are involved. The last one, to finish off, is what I call joined up healthcare. And some of the speakers today will have some views on that. And to me, this is one of the biggest problems we have. If you look at the patient flow from starting hunting around the net for information about treatment, making a choice of clinic or hospital, deciding where to go, paying the money, being treated, and then going home, much of the focus of medical travel is just around here. They turn up on your clinic in your country and they get treated, and maybe they get some good or bad information, and then they go home. And it's not integrated. It isn't joined up healthcare, and there's not enough attention given to everything else that is around this kind of patient journey. And if we really want to deliver proper patient care in medical travel, you have to look at the big picture. It's not just about attracting, getting the patients, dealing with them, and sending them back home. People have got to start working with domestic UK and other organisations. So my message for the conference as a whole, I've taken a quote from Winston Churchill, who was a very famous British Prime Minister many years ago. And although these are what I see kind of difficult times, you know, with what's gone on with the recession and what the effect that's had on the healthcare market in the last couple of years. Somebody would be to say, well, a pessimist, he said, sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And I'm an optimist. There are problems and difficulties in economies, in healthcare systems in my country, and there are significant opportunities for people and medical travel businesses overseas. So the message is listen to what some of the ideas come from the other speakers and take away and put these into practice, and let's kind of change this future of medical travel. Thank you.